running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me.
Hello, Miami. Thank you so much for watching 305 Sports Now. I am your host, Will, and welcome to 305 Live. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but why not, man? Why not? There's been a lot of conversation about the Miami Hurricanes, and there's been a lot of conversation about the Miami Dolphins. We're going to focus on the Miami Hurricanes and Miami Hurricanes alone today as they have an epic battle against Texas A&M this upcoming Saturday. Showdown at high noon at College Station. And my first guest, hold on before I start. Right. What up, Juan? Yes, I am live. Thank you so much. I am live. Okay, I am live. So yes, thank you. Thank you for joining us as usual. All right, back to focus. All right, so joining us today is one of the most hottest and up-and-coming Miami Hurricane-centered podcasters. His takes and his shorts are pretty eye-catching, and his banter and wit are absolutely amazing. That has earned a lot of attention from a lot of people around the Canesverse, I would like to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my friend, good friend, Justin Classey, but actually, I would like to call him Dr. Justin Classey, a.k.a. the Classy Cane, man. What's up, Justin? How's it going?
What's going on, my man? Thank you for having me on again. Thank you for the good introduction. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for always sharing your platform, man. It's an honor to be here. No,
and it's an honor to have you on, man. I really, really appreciate you so much, man. You're doing amazing work at the Canesverse, and I gotta quote Jordan Harris. You're great for people with ADD, bro, because you're like short, straight to the point with your shorts, and you bring the humor, man. So that's pretty neat. But it's so funny because you say a lot in such a little time, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I want to find a way to elevator pitch Hurricanes content because there's so many people who have great platforms, who have great podcasts, who are going to give you solid content over an hour, and I just don't have time for that. I'm here. I want to get straight to the point. I want to talk about the Canes. I want it to be exciting. I want it to be engaging. Sometimes I want to give you skits, so I want to just transition a little beyond just talking to you all for an hour because I know I'm going to get bored of myself in an hour, and I wouldn't want to do that to you guys.
Oh man, you're always engaging, bro. I don't think anyone could ever get bored of you, bro. I think that you bring it, man. Every single little micro episode you do, man. Can I call it a micro episode? Is that okay, or short? Actually,
that's the way to put it. Yeah, it'll be short. It's micro episodes. You know, yeah. I want it to be more episodic of how I do my content. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you're doing great work, man. I'm very happy to have you on, man. Once again. But this guest is a regular every so often on the show. He's a good friend of mine. He's actually a colleague of mine at work as well. But he is a 6-time state championship winning coach. Coach Gross, man. What's up, brother?
How you doing? How you guys doing? Appreciate you.
Doing good, man. Good, man. How's the day with the kids, bro?
It was good. It was good. You know, getting ready for the holidays coming up. So yeah, everything's been going well.
Well, I gotta give a special shout out. I think Miss Trillis will like the fact I'm wearing the Westland logo. And so on the air today. Yeah, and so on, and so forth. All right, so guys, let's talk a little bit of business, man. A&M. Okay, showdown at high noon. I think this is probably going to be the best game, right, slated for the playoff, the playoff selection, based upon the fact that I do feel like both these teams are evenly matched. And I do think that it's going to be one heck of a game. I do think the Kings will come out on top, though. But I do think it's going to be one heck of a game, and I think it will be a one-score game as well. But I want to get your perspectives before I give mine as far as the analytics go and the analysis of the game. Starting first with you, Justin. What do you think?
I said at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of people that I would talk with. I felt like the Miami Hurricanes and Texas A&M were on a collision course. I felt like we are built similarly where they have the trenches and they're built inside out. So it's going to be a good game. But when it comes to the Canes and what I think will happen, I think it's just going to come down to the experience. It's going to be their quarterback versus our quarterback. We have the experience in that particular vein. And I just see the Canes doing their thing and moving on.
Yeah. Coach, we had our holiday party last week, and you had some interesting perspective about Texas A&M, and you came from it from a coach's perspective and a personnel perspective. Can you let the audience know, like, what exactly you think, why you think Miami has such a strong advantage against A&M?
Sure. So obviously, it's a three-faceted game. Offense, defense, special teams. But when I look at I look at plays their best football when their defensive line is dominating, right? When their defensive line is dominating, the defense is dominating, and I feel like the offense feeds off of it and plays better. When the D line is getting pressure and looks good, the DBs don't have to cover for as long. The linebackers have an easier time filling. A&M has a great offensive line, but I just see I see UM's D line come into play. I see UM's D line coming very similar to the way they came against Notre Dame. They just had the Heisman Trophy the other day. Jeremiah Love was, he finished third in the rankings, and there's a good reason why, or a good possibility that the reason why he finished third could be because of the University of Miami defensive line, right? That was really the one game that he really, really struggled. And he just couldn't get anything started with that D line getting penetration and getting pressure in the backfield. I feel like A&M is really built on their offense is really centered around their quarterback being able to be a dual threat, right? He's gonna look downfield, but he likes to take off running. He likes to make things happen with his feet. And if that defensive four can get pressure, and Will, I think I mentioned this to you like halfway through the season, at least after the Florida State game, I was like, I don't know if has blitzed yet. Like their front four was doing such a phenomenal job of getting pressure that they weren't even bringing, an extra backer. A lot of times they were just getting pressure with their front four. So now automatically you could play more games in the secondary. You could play, confuse the quarterback and his reads and the way you drop the coverage. But I think the game is going to be decided on UM's D line versus A&M's offensive line.
Yeah, they blitz. They have blitz. They like to blitz Jacoby Thomas a lot, and they've blitzed Keontae Scott quite a bit. But it's not a lot. It's usually every so often. It's always very disguised as well. You never the opposing quarterbacks rarely even see them coming. So I think it's a phenomenon. But you're right, Coach. I mean, they do get a lot of pressure with the front four. Dramatically, even with the interior line as well. We look at the edge rushers a lot, man, but the interior line has been balling as of late. Moten, Blunt, Scott, they've been in the backfield as well. Before I go to Justin with the next question, I want to ask you something, Coach. There's been a lot of conversation about Ruben Bain. A lot of fans that just look at the Miami from on the surface level, look at a guy like why he's being so talked about with only 4.5 sacks on the season, but he does so much more for the team on the defense side of the ball, and he's such a game wrecker as well. He does keep defensive coordinators up at night, like how the heck they're going to scheme against this guy. What intangible does Ruben bring to this game that if an A&M fan happens to be watching this podcast, they need to know about? Coach, you hear me?
That was directed towards me.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So from a coach. Yeah, from a coach. No, it's okay. I'm like, do we lose him?
Coach, so
yeah.
Right. So as a defensive line, a lot of people focus, in my opinion, too much on sacks. Right. You have gap responsibility, you have game responsibility, right? So as a defensive end, you have to keep contained. You have to force runners, back inside. You have to allow linebackers to fill and do their job. You have to, have a good defensive tackle set, your inside interior of controlling their gaps, not necessarily always getting pressure, but controlling their gaps and stopping from being pushed back. And I think what Ruben Bain does so well is he forces you to run away from him. He forces a lot of times a double team. So automatically, where to a novice, an inexperienced eye, you might say, well, his numbers aren't where they're supposed to be. He can single-handedly excel the numbers of the linebackers and other defensive line around him, because you have to account for him so much that you're freeing up other players to make plays. And really, if a middle linebacker has 15 tackles in a game, credit that to the D line. It means that they're freeing him up to be able to come downhill and make a tackle, right? It's the D line has responsibilities first before individual stats. And I think one thing he does so well is he's a team player. Right? Mm-hmm. He plays football. He doesn't play Ruben Bain football. And he's adamant about that. He does what he does for his team, and he's the reason they're in the position they're in defensively right now.
We'll get into the whole aspect of running the football in a couple minutes, Juan, but I want to get Justin's perspective on this. it's how Coach Cristobal is, but it looks like we're going to see a return of Keontae Scott, into the lineup this upcoming Saturday against A&M, which adds another wrinkle to Miami's defense, both in the secondary and also in stopping the run as well, and also in blitz packages. Like, how important is Keontae Scott to this football team, especially this upcoming Saturday, especially with a quarterback as mobile as Marcel Reed?
Keontae Scott is major. He is a phenomenal nickel. He's going to be the guy that's going to take over the slot. Texas A&M has a lot of small receivers. They're shifty, they're quick, and Keontae Scott is going to be the one to pick up. We absolutely need him on the field. As you said before, he's the one coming off that corner blitz where he's always disruptive. You never see it coming. We need him on the field. We need as much help as we can get when it comes to speed. So having Keontae Scott back is going to be major for the Miami Hurricanes. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, one of the things that's been talked about, and I'll go back to you, Justin, is the A&M's rush defense. A&M's rush defense averages about 127 yards per game. It's been considered a weakness, and it's actually one of the main reasons why Texas was able to knock them off when they were able to in the last game of the season. So my question to you is, I do have a lot of respect for Mike Elko. He brought Duke back from football irrelevancy. Do you think that we're going to see a better performance from the D-line against our running game by Texas A&M, or do you think that the fact that we have such big linemen and we're able to push our weight around against most teams, it's going to be a long day for A&M?
Texas A&M is a smaller D-line, so I don't see them magically putting on the weight and the size to be ready for the Miami Hurricanes in 2 weeks after just getting ran all over by Texas. That's not going to happen. I see the same thing happening. They're going against a better O-line. I see us running down their throat at will. I see Mark Fletcher having a big game. I also see Gerard Prinkle having a big game against them. Yes, they are good. They are good in pass defense. They're good with their pass rush. They're quicker, so they're going to give O-line some trouble. They're going to be quick. They're going to be able to do things that the O-line is going to have to be prepared for. But in the run game, there is no preparation for size. There's nothing that you can do. It's something that they cannot change in 2 weeks.
Yeah, they do have a playmaker though on a defensive line. His name escapes me. I'm looking for him right now. Where'd he go? There we go. Cassius Howell has 11 and a half sacks this season for his ball club. What do you do to stop that guy? I double team him, or do you think that CC will have him unlocked for the whole game on one-on-ones? This goes to Justin. Sorry, then we'll go back to Coach.
Yeah, it's going to be man on man. It's going to be you put your beast against their beast and see who wins that day. There's not going to be a double team. I have faith that Maui Noah is going to be able to handle him. He is a stud. He is good. But I don't see anything that warrants a double team outside of the fact that Miami is going to be able to impose their will on him. And if there is a double team, it's going to be on some type of pin and pull type of play, or it's going to be something where he's just getting jammed up in some blocking scheme that's going to limit his effectiveness, but not a specific dedication for him.
Okay. Yeah, I think Juan. I think we just answered your question indirectly with this one, and I do agree with you, Juan. Right, Juan is, by the way, a great friend of the show. He's a great friend of a lot of our podcasts. He's always participating, not just in mine, but also with the You Heard guys and Dono as well. Bain does have a lot of friends, and also teams like Notre Dame learned you can't focus too much attention on Bain because Mesidor can wreck your offense similar to Bain. Louisville's the only team that held Miami's pass rush in check. And they held Miami's pass rush in check because Miller Moss was able to throw the football. One thing I will say is that we've seen adjustments, because one of my complaints about the Louisville game, Justin, Coach, feel free to if you disagree me to push back, is that I thought our DBs played a little too off at times with guys like Chris Bell and Lacey. I do think that Heatherman has moved the guys up front, especially with Ethan O'Connor being a lanky, more aggressive corner. So we've seen, I believe, the pass defense, the secondary, kind of elevate their game, also being aggressive in coverage. Coach, do you agree with me, or do you see something a little different with Heatherman's defense the last 4 games?
I agree with you. I will say one thing. Justin alluded to it before about A&M. They do have some smaller, quick receivers. They also have a lot of quick backs. They're not a big back team. They like speed, and that does remind me of Louisville's offense a little bit, right? Louisville likes to build on speed too. So, with speed, you can't give it time to develop, right? The more time you have guys that are quick and shifty out in the open, the more they get lost, and getting lost on to defensive players not good. It means you create space and you find yourself wide open. So I do think that has been more aggressive, like you said, in the secondary. Again, I think it starts at the front four. I think having Scott, back at that nickel is a huge advantage for that they could be missing because he's so multi-talented. He can do so much, just to change that whole secondary almost single-handedly.
Okay. To answer Juan's question, yes, but I do think defensively we're playing a little differently now. I think that we're playing at a very high level, and I will say this about Miami. Miami's biggest problem has always been against teams that they're basically 2 touchdown favorites against. Under Coach Cristobal, at least that I can remember, not his first year though. Miami does kind of elevate their game when they're playing like a top 10 opponent or a team at least with a reputation. I.e., of course, we have Notre Dame, Florida to open up the season last year with Cam Ward, and of course, playing the Gators again as well. So I do think they may come in with a blistering quick passing in as the best way to pretty much go against a good pass rush, but I don't think that they may have the same success as Louisville did because I don't think our corners would play as off. Justin, you wanna respond to that question as well, or?
This one's tough for me because they're a lot smaller. When it comes to Louisville, the Canes had to worry about their receiver Bell. He's the number one wide receiver. He's going to be that guy in the NFL on Sundays. For this team, it's a little different, and I'm stuck on what my approach would be if I came into it. If I think about my cornerback mind, I would want a little bit more zone, and I know a lot of Canes fans don't want to see that. I know they don't want to play in spacing when you have to deal with faster receivers because they can sit down in the zone. You give them space, they're going to take off. But the problem is Marcel Reed struggles with zone coverage. So do you give him the look that he doesn't want to see, or do you give the receivers the look they want to see? I think that when it comes to it, it's going to have to be a mix because we can't play man all game long because our corners aren't the ones with the quick hips that are going to get around. They're the ones they're going to jam you up. They're going to get you on the line, but that's not going to work all game. That's going to lead to more pass interferences. That's going to lead to those back shoulders that we hate to see, where we're going to give them 15 yards where they really had no intention of actually completing that pass that they're going to take advantage of. So it's going to need to be a mix. I'm leaning more to more zone that needs to happen with these wide outs.
Yeah, if I could piggyback off that, again, with a dual threat quarterback, a lot of man can be dangerous too, because what happens is your hips end up turned, right? If I'm a corner and I'm man on man, I'm mirror imaging your route. A lot of times my hips are turning. For a dual threat quarterback that's as fast as Marcel Reed, you don't want guys not being aware of where he is at all times, right? He could do so much damage with his legs. I 100% agree with Justin. I think we're going to see a lot of zone. They'll mix it up. They'll scheme. They're going to try to hide a lot of coverages to try to confuse Reed. If I'm A&M, right? If I'm the offensive coordinator for A&M, I'm trying to work a very quick pass game with a lot of switch routes. Right, I'm trying to get the ball of his hands quick. I'm trying to give him the opportunity to one read and maybe take off and go. Probably a lot of play action or some kind of back end read or something with those quick backs. They're gonna try to allow him to be a game maker with his arm and feet, and they're gonna try to get the ball of his hands quick, at least in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. But I also think that the run integrity is going to be very important to keep Marcel Reed bottled up. I think that's going to be the front four's job to make sure he doesn't scramble out and get a cheap 10, 15 yards because our guys are in man. That's one of the flaws in man is that you lose the running quarterback. So I do agree. I think we will see a major blend of zone, and I do think we will see occasional blitzes. He makes mistakes. You can make the same category for Carson Beck. I think he takes more chances than Beck does, more than Beck did in those 2 games against SMU and Louisville. But he does make mistakes, and I do think that's going to be the goal, is to confuse him on defense and occasionally blitz to get him off his game and try to get a couple interceptions. The turnover battle is going to be very important in this game, right? And the turnover, Miami needing to win the turnover battle is very important because let's be honest, a good way to take the crowd out of the game. They only released 3,500 tickets to Miami Hurricanes fans, so it's going to be 97,000 screaming Aggies in that stadium. And no matter what, I mean, it's a tough place to play. Carson Beck has experience playing in the SEC, but it's a very tough place to play. So I think it's important Miami takes A&M out of the game right away. Flo, what's up, brother?
Yeah,
Shout out
I
to
hear
Flo.
you.
Subscribe.
I hear you about that home field advantage, but I just have to really say, yes, home field advantage matters. It definitely does matter. And the fact that they have a capacity for 100,000, Canes have gotten 3,500 tickets, all well and cool. But I don't buy into that too much. I don't buy into it because if that was the case, Texas A&M would have the record for a home winning streak like the Canes have. They don't have it. The last time that they won a national championship, Harry S. Truman was the president. So I don't really give a shit about their home field advantage. That's great. If the Canes are going to lose based on the noise that the crowd makes, the Canes don't deserve to be there. So I don't really care about that aspect. Yes, it's going to be loud, but they better be prepared for that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you. It's going to be loud, but it's not easy. Like I was telling actually a friend of ours, coach Dwight Dwelly. I was telling him when I was at the 2000 Miami Hurricanes game when they beat Florida State, really when the return of the Canes started, we forced 5 delay of games because Chris Winkie couldn't hear in the Orange Bowl. I'm just saying. So that's the only factor I'm talking about. But I'm saying like the experience of Beck playing in an atmosphere like that, I'm not really too fazed by it, as well. So that's pretty much all I'm saying. This team's gonna be well prepared. Everyone thought we wouldn't be prepared for the cold in Pittsburgh, and we slaughtered that team. But the bottom line is that it's gonna be an electric atmosphere, on this upcoming Saturday.
Yeah, before I let Coach Joe respond, absolutely. Like Coach Cristobal said, if the cold is affecting the players, you're soft. If the noise is affecting the players too much in the game, you're soft. Mm-hmm. And yeah, 100%. It's going to be an element that they should prepare for, but they should be prepared for that.
Yeah. Coach, what's up?
Man, I mean, I even know, yeah, it gets loud, possibly delay games, but outside that, like it even goes back to high school. We don't even have to go to college. You'll find out everything you have to know about a team if you're in a hostile environment, and it's like you either piss down your leg or you go out there and you play ball. And if you're a ball player, sometimes you feed off being in a hostile environment, right? Or like it gets you amped up. Sometimes being home actually can kind of downplay you a little bit because everyone's cheering for you. But when you feel like you're in a corner and you're a dog, like you're gonna attack. So, I mean, I think that I don't think the home field advantage is gonna have that much of an effect on UM in general. I think that as a team that they probably are looking forward to going there and playing them in their house.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere, and I think our guys feed off of the pretty much the negativity and a ruckus crowd. So I think, like I said, like they went to the Swamp, and the Swamp was loud, and we saw what happened last year. Cam demolished the Florida Gators. So, but I'm excited, man. I think it's gonna be a good game this coming Saturday. So, Coach, I want to ask you a question. All right, Trey Zune, the very talented but yet big mouth offensive lineman for the Aggies, decided to basically kind of throw a little shade at Ruben Bain. If you were in that situation and you were taking on what some people felt he should have kind of been in the Heisman conversation the first half of the season, what would you tell a player that did something like that?
As the A&M coach, or as
if you're in that position and you're the A&M coach, you're Mike Elko, what would you say to Trey Zune?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna have an issue with it. I'm just gonna tell him. I'm gonna tell him, hey man, talk your talk, but you better fucking back it up on. You better back it up on Saturday, right? But the same thing if I'm Mario, I'm telling Bain like, look, I don't have anything to say. Like you better handle this. This is like he's talking about you. So, you do what you have to do on Saturday. We don't even have to have a conversation. So I think it comes down to when you have, a grown man that on either side of it, you're making those comments. It comes down to, all right, the stage is on, man. The lights are on. Back it up.
Yeah. Okay. So Justin, are we going to see the Ruben notebook for that because of that comment?
I think Bain is a self-starter. I think he is someone who is self-motivated. I don't think he needs the bulletin material to play any better than he needs to. The O-lineman talking about not knowing Ruben Bain, it's funny because Ruben Bain has more interceptions than their entire cornerback room. So it doesn't matter what he feels. Bain is going to do his thing, and the Canes are going to do their thing. If people want to talk, like Coach said, let them do that. That might be their way to get motivated. But it's just going to be something that they're going to have to deal with when they see the Canes on Saturday.
Yeah. Before we move on to the transfer portal quarterback situation that could potentially be one of the guys becomes a Miami Hurricane or doesn't, I do want to speak about the two wide receivers that A&M does have, Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. Concepcion, you remember him over from from NC State. What are your thoughts on those two receivers, and what does Miami need to watch out for, or how should Miami play them? We'll start first with Justin, then we'll go to Coach Joe.
It was like I was saying earlier. They're both shifty. They're both smaller. I would mix in a lot more zone. Again, we're down here in Miami. Everybody wants to see the big physical play. Everybody wants us to be locked in on man coverage, jam them at the line, not let them get up, don't give inside release and everything like that. But this team is a little bit quicker where you have to respect that speed, and I want to see a little bit more zone. Mario Craver is good, but he's not a big boy at all. He's light. Letting him come across the middle on a quick pass and a hit will make him think twice about putting his hands out for those types of catches. Concepcion, we've seen him before in the ACC. He's no one new, and I think that the Canes will have a good game plan. That's the one phase of the game I'm not worried about because Heatherman comes prepared every single time.
Coach?
Very similar. I think if they do well at disguising their zone, in zone play, one of the biggest benefits for the defense is those little shifty slot receivers that come inside. They think they're covered until they think they're free, and they don't realize that all you're doing is passing on your responsibility to the next man in that zone. And it's only so much time before they come across the middle and get laid out. And it doesn't take many big hits for the alligator arms to start. I think that does prepare very well in the secondary. Similar to what Justin said. You scheme up well, and I think Reed's going to have issues. Reading what might do on that backside, and I think that their receivers might start getting a little jammed up where they don't have the space that they have. Like Justin said earlier, one of the biggest things with certain comebacks and pivot routes and stuff, you got to kind of sit in the zones. Right? You can't fully carry out your routes. You have to kind of sit where that space is. It's harder as a small receiver because when you sit in that zone, you kind of know a hit's coming, right? Sometimes you're getting drilled in the back, like you might run a 6 route. And you're sitting there, sitting in that zone, knowing that a corner is coming down. He's going to drill you in the back as soon as you catch that ball. For the bigger receivers, it's sometimes a little easier. The small receivers, it could be a problem. So, I'm not overly worried. My concern with them, like I said, offensively is really, can you keep Marcel Reed single faceted and not let him be that dual threat guy?
Okay. Guys, great take from both of you as far as A&M goes. But before I move on to the portal quarterbacks, I want to speak a little bit about Malachi Tony. Malachi Tony's really made an impact from day one as the true freshman wide receiver at a Heritage. I saw it. I don't know why. I think it was 247 kept him as a 3-star for a while, but really showing exactly why he is probably the best freshman. Should be the freshman rookie of the year all over college football. How important has Malachi been to this team, and how important is he going to be in this game? Starting first with Coach, and then we'll go over to Justin.
Well, I told you this a couple times. So last year, I actually coached at Miami Norland. And Malachi Tony almost, as close as you can come to single-handedly beat us in the semifinals of the state playoff. He did everything. Diabell went down the game before with an injury. They moved Malachi to quarterback, and you couldn't stop him. You couldn't stop him. The kid he's different. He's a once in a generation player. He has a read for the ball. He's got great hips where he can come out his break. He's got great speed. He is you saw already like they'll use him. He's thrown 2 touchdown passes this year, something like that already at in different little schemes and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he threw one to Beck, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
He threw one at Beck, and then he threw one to Elijah Lofton. Yes.
He just does so much, and he has like this deceptive speed. As fast as he kind of looks, he's faster in person. And it's almost like effortless. He's extremely talented. And I think it's hard to scheme for someone like him because he can do so many different things well.
Yeah, Justin, your take?
I think he's just special. I think he is one of the best players that have touched the Canes campus. I think that he is tough to defend because he is quick. He is deceptively fast. When I first saw him, I was like, yeah, how is he getting so open? He's not
Mm.
moving like that. But then as the year went on, I'm like, yo, this guy is really fast. Like on the punt return that we should have had
Mhm.
in that Louisville game
Mm-hmm.
that was called back. He was out of there. He has speed. I think he affects the game in so many different ways. And it's finally good to see the Canes utilizing that gadget player, but he's more than a gadget player. But when we had Brashard Smith, we were like, why don't we use him the way we should use him? Or why don't we use Chris Johnson? But we're using Malachi Tony. He can
Mhm.
affect the game in the run game. He can affect it passing. He can affect it receiving. He can affect it on special teams. He is all three phases of football. That's how special he is. And that's what he's going to do on the field. He's going to be that factor in the game. And he's at the point now where he's commanding so much attention, he's opened things up for our other receivers as well. Because people are forgetting about CJ Daniels. He's our shorthand possession receiver.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to forget about Keelan Marion because they were wondering, well, why hasn't Keelan Marion come along yet? Well, because the focus was a little bit more on him and people weren't paying attention to Malachi Tony. Well, now that the attention has shifted, everything has begun to open up, and that's what he causes and affects in the game.
Yeah. I just hope that on Saturday there was a play that they ran against NC State where Malachi was the Wildcat, was in the Wildcat, and he missed Gerard Pringle by like a yard or two on a pass where Gerard Pringle could have literally slow walked into the end zone. It would have been a touchdown. I hope they try that play again against A&M because it was a thing of beauty if it would have landed. So I mean, I really hope they try. So kid's a great player. I'm glad he stuck with his recruitment here at Miami. He decommitted, recommitted basically after a cup of coffee. So Miami's really blessed to have him, and I'm really happy that he is a Miami Hurricane. But before we move on to transfer portal, I just want to give a word to our sponsor, Fan Outfitters of Pembroke Pines, the official sponsor of 305 Sports. Now, if you want gear, all right, very good gear and accessories for the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, Inter Miami, Miami Marlins, and even FIU, please pass by Fan Outfitters of Pembroke Pines, the official sponsor of 305 Sports. Now, just ask for the manager, Anthony. He'll take very good care of you. Thank you so much. All right, guys, transfer portal talk time. All right. It hasn't really even started yet. It doesn't open until January 2nd, but we're already naming the next Miami Hurricane quarterback. And there's two guys I want to talk about tonight. I know, Justin, you had a lot to say about the first one. I'm gonna go over on your take on YouTube. So Sam Levitt, I really like this guy. I know he has the foot injury, but the ceiling is so high on this young man. The way he balled out for Arizona State, the way he got him a conference championship, the fact he takes care of the ball very well. Plus, he's also a dual threat quarterback as well. I think he'd fit into Dawson's system. Dawson, in my opinion, his system looks a lot better when he does have a quarterback that could run and pass as well. So, Justin, I want to get your take on Mr. Levitt.
I think it depends on which Levitt we're able to get. And I know you referenced the foot injury, but the Liz Frank injury and the surgery that comes with it, it's a little tricky because, yes, there's a potential that he is going to return at the same level of athleticism that he had before. And, you know, studies have shown that that's about 93, 94% where they return to their athleticism. And then the issue with that study, though, is the fact that it covers 43 sports. It doesn't cover just football. So when you think about who is able to return from that injury at that peak, you have to start looking in other areas. So I look at Cam Newton, who had the surgery. Cam Newton has been beat up all of his time in Carolina when we saw shoulder injuries, the knee injury. But it wasn't until he got that Liz Frank injury that you saw a different Cam Newton, where he wasn't himself afterwards. And then, you know, he essentially retired in place. He hasn't even officially retired. Then you have Darren McFadden, who had the injury and the surgery, never returned to his normal self. So it is a successful procedure, but you just don't know what you're going to get on the other end. And that's what worries me about him. But if you can guarantee that he is going to be the Sam Levitt prior to the injury, 100%, pull the trigger. But just going back, I watched the Baylor game over and over and watched the injury, and I'm like, man, I don't know about that. Then I saw the Houston game, and you see how much it was bothering him. He couldn't even set his foot to drive on his passes. You see him just basically one-legging it whenever he passed the ball. That's something to be concerned about. And I don't know if I want to waste a year of Malachi Tony on whether or not this guy is going to be able to be whole.
Okay, Coach.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you said, if you're getting the Sam Levitt that was, Arizona State starter beginning of the season, 100%. I think that one of the biggest benefits that Miami hasn't really had lately, hasn't really put themselves in the position to have, that he could potentially bring is, if I'm not mistaken, he's a sophomore. He'll be a junior next year. Now, obviously, you never know, one and done if he does well, but I've talked about this with you, Will. Like, one of the things with Miami is with that fifth, 6 year transfer portal quarterback guy, every year it's one and done, one and done, one and done.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit as an offensive coordinator and as an offense in general, and having a returner, right? Having a guy that maybe can sit probably not 3, but 2 years in the system. I mean, that's huge. That's huge in building, especially when you have a young receiver core, which they have, right? They have a nice young receiver core that can potentially grow together. We've talked about this. My biggest thing with Miami is they got to get out of that one and done, 6-year QB mindset, and try to have something a little more sustainable to keep the program going in the direction that it's going. I think you're muted.
All right, much better. Yeah, my mic's self muted. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I do think that one thing about Mario Cristobal is a very good talent evaluator, and I think they'll dot their I's and cross their T's with Sam Levitt. I do think that he won't have to do, I think, as much running as he had to do at Arizona State, because he's going to have a really good mind. It's going to be a little bit of a tweaking on the offensive line, because a lot of guys are going to go to the NFL. We still don't know about Marco Bell yet, but I do think that he definitely will miss spring practice. It'll be another Carson Beck situation. Yeah, it's a Beck situation where he won't be until the summer where he really starts to throw with his players. At least get more practice reps with his players the way a quarterback should. So we'll see, how it goes. I like him. I like what I saw, when he was healthy. I like the tenacity. I love the leadership, right, as well, that he brought to his team in Arizona State as well. So I would like to have him. Another guy that we're going to talk about now that I do like Brandon Sorsby. He's a lot bigger than he looks on television. He's 6'4", I think 235 pounds, extremely athletic. They run an air raid type system over there in Cincinnati where they play very fast as well. They try to score a lot of points. He has a very nice back shoulder throw as well. He's very elusive. The rumor has it that he found his own Hannah Cavender, and his girlfriend transferred to Texas Tech, so they might be linking him over there. And we know Tech likes to pay a lot for quarterbacks and players right now, so that could be the case. So hopefully, we could kind of work things out with him, because I think he's a perfect fit, as well as Levitt as well. But I think he's a perfect fit for Dawson's system. Justin, what do you think about that? And then we'll go to Coach.
So I agree with Coach first and foremost that I would love for us to start developing our own and starting to build with what we have in-house. I would rather deal with the growing pains of a newcomer than a transfer portal QB, because I know there's going to be X amount of years in addition to those growing pains. But if there had to be someone in the transfer portal that we got, I feel most comfortable with Sorsby. That is a big dude. That is Josh Allen, minus the inaccuracy concerns. He's not complete when it comes to how he throws. He definitely throws off platform a little bit too much for my liking. He doesn't drive off the back foot. So if you have Sam Levitt who's injured and can't drive off the back foot, and then you have someone who just doesn't drive off the back foot, it's no benefit. But he's healthy. Again, he's a big boy. That is a Ben Roethlisberger type of player. Mm. And for going old school to a lot of Canes fans who may remember or may not want to remember, he reminds me of Rutherford from Pittsburgh. That was a big dude, and I remember that one play where he broke containment, and it was him and Vilma one-on-one getting ready to go to the sidelines, and he just washed Vilma. That's something I've never seen out of a quarterback. That's who I think Sorsby is, plus he is a good passer. But it all depends on where the chips land with that.
Yeah. Yeah, again, he may follow the girlfriend, he may not. And to answer Juan's question, that is a possibility regarding Levitt. That is a possibility if Moore decides to go to the NFL. Levitt is from that area of the country, so Oregon could be a player as well. Another one I heard, I believe, was also Indiana. Indiana might be in the mix for Levitt as well. So, and if Indiana wins a championship with Mendoza going to the NFL, that could be a factor as well. See, look at Juan's comments are hilarious. Sorby scares me. His girl is at Texas Tech. Who knows if he is a jealous guy worried about his girl at Texas Tech? We had a guy called TVD who had issues. I think
Sorsby's issues were on the team, not outside.
Yeah, bro. And not only that, I think Sorsby's a lot more mentally tough than TVD. I do agree. A lot of what I've seen of Sorsby has been, from highlights as well. So I haven't seen full games from Cincinnati. And I did notice that on his deep ball, he does float it a bit. There's a little too much air in the ball for my taste. But as far as the outside throws and stuff like that, I think he's got it. And I think Dawson could kind of work with him, as far as me cleaning up a little bit of that. But I do think that the fact that he's able to use his legs is an asset to the team altogether, because that's another thing a defensive corner has a plan for. Not only do you have to deal with a good offensive line, talented receivers, but a receiver that could, a quarterback that can kill you with his legs. So I like both guys. DJ Lagway, hell to the no. No, okay? No, if you can't get Sorsby or Levitt, and that's your option, you might as well just start Luke Nickel. I would rather see Luke Nickel start than see DJ Lagway in a Miami Hurricane uniform. I'm really sorry. I have never seen a more mechanically dysfunctional quarterback than DJ Lagway. I mean, I'm sorry. I know he's a 4-star recruit, but what I saw with Miami and a couple of occasions against LSU and stuff like that, that is like how not to coach the quarterback position from DJ Lagway. So no, CJ Belly's nice and stuff like that, but I still think, I think he's taking NC State personally. I think he's going to remain loyal to the team, but no DJ Lagway at all. All right. What do you guys think? DJ Lagway, yay, nay? Where are you guys at on that one? What do you think? What do you think, Justin?
I think that people just need to go watch the LSU game. There's so many people who have messaged me on Instagram asking me about DJ Lagway, and I'm really confused. I'm like, are you asking me just because this is a name, or do you actually really believe in him as the quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes? Because he gave away the ball 5 times to LSU. I don't know what you saw. I don't know what you want to see or expect to see. And no offense to him, but he has too many injury concerns.
Yeah, it's another one too.
I don't want a player who is injured as often as he is. I'm not trying to crack a joke on him, but he's turning into the Greg Oden of college football. Like we like stop bringing that one up. I hope the best though, and I hope wherever he goes, he lights it up.
Yeah, no, I hope so too, because the one thing I like about him, he is loyal. He did try to stay at Florida. Mm-hmm. But no, absolutely not. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see what Juan has to say. Then we'll get to coach. Hey, Will, don't close the show without asking the gentleman what the CFP picking Miami experience was like. Were they the Notre Dame response? Oh, perfect, especially towards ACC. Not ripping them. Okay. I want to get coach's perspective on Lagway. Then I'll ask you guys a question Juan has, and then we'll close out the show. Coach, DJ Lagway, yay or nay?
Unfortunately, nay. I think he has the perfect attitude any quarterback you ever want to have. Like, mm-hmm. I think like when he's in, he's all in, and I would love to see him do well anywhere. But he, like Justin said, he's injury prone. His mechanics aren't there. He makes a lot of errors. To be honest, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, and I apologize. I think he's from Central Florida, but I was almost more impressed with their backup this year, with their backup, the true freshman. They're a true freshman UF, I think from somewhere in that Central Florida area. And he even had like little sparks that impressed me. But, before you go that route, we have, Luke Nickel from I think he was player of the year in Georgia last year.
Yeah, he was.
Senior.
Mm-hmm.
You have I'm drawing a blank on his name, the kid from Orlando Jones who
Darren
Coleman. You have some young talent, and part of the problem with young talent, because even when you look at the kid from Cincinnati, right? He didn't start Cincinnati, he started Indiana. Is when you have young talent at the quarterback position, and you're constantly looking for that developed portal guy. Your young talent gets in the portal and then is successful somewhere else, right? And it's like, damn, I wish we could have had him. Well, you did have him, but you let him go because it was so focused on. And unfortunately, the quarterback position's kind of been there. Like it's almost like you don't even get recruited P4 at high school anymore. It's kind of like it's better off to go somewhere else, ball out, and then get in the portal and get that NIL deal. Um, but I think has some really good talent uh, in-house at the QB position, and they have to develop and look at what they have there for the future.
Yeah, my take on it is, I think this should be the last year we go portal hunting for quarterback. I think that the ceiling is up with Emory. He already graduated. I think he's gonna hit the portal as well. And I'm not sure about Judd Anderson. He's kind of drafted as kind of like a project. He played, I think, in an option. I think his junior he played in high school that still ran the option, and then he became more of a quarterback. I think his senior year. So I haven't heard much about him. So I think that maybe just give Luke that one more year, try to win a national championship with the roster you have now, and then you can start Luke. But I think that this is probably, hopefully, is the last year, because you redshirt a Luke regardless. He'll give you 2 years, and then you can usher in Darion Coleman, who I do hope gets a little bigger. Against Heritage in the state championship game, they did lose that game. We did talk about that at the party, Joe. Yep. But the only reason why Jones was even in that game was because of Darion Coleman. Darion Coleman played his butt off for Orlando Jones and actually kept his team in the game. And who knows what would happen if the kick return doesn't muff the kick. I forget if it was a kickoff or a punt. Forgive me, but there was a fumble, on special teams, and that's how Heritage closed out the game with about 40 seconds left. So I wonder what would have happened if Coleman would have had another opportunity. But Coleman was all the offense for Jones in that game. They're not even in that game if it isn't for Darion Coleman. So that's just my take. I especially if you can get like a Levitt or Sorsby as well. I've heard other names as well out there. Didn't Raiola, but he's kind of a little too much committing and transfer portalish for people. But if you get one of those two guys, I say try it out. Let's see what happens, and then but the following year you would have. I would hope develop Nico enough where you could trust him with the offense. So, before we go, any last words regarding what I said, Justin and Coach? Going first with Justin.
No, I agree. I think that this should be the last year in the portal. I think that we should focus on building with our QBs. Coach said it best, that a lot of times you have a QB in your camp and they're just not ready yet, but then they go somewhere else, and then you're like, man, I wish we had this QB. And yeah, you did. You had them in your camp. You had them on your team. I definitely think that we should have a bridge, because Emory Williams had his chance to shine, and his game against Iowa State last year was that moment, and he didn't. That's the reason why we hit the portal again. From what we saw this year in his brief little flash, he looked faster, but I still saw the same passing out of him. And that's not going to get it done. So I think that we do have a bright future. We should focus on the bright future. You brought up Dylan Raiola again. I just, for me, I cannot deal with a project QB. I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want someone coming off of a bad injury, and then if you get out there and then re-injure yourself, now you're going to get the medical red shirt. You're going to come back another year. Now you're pushing our QB development back another year. So I don't want to deal with it. And of course, injuries can happen regardless, but your probability goes up as you're dealing with someone who has already had a bad injury. So that's what I don't want to see. I want the stopgap for next year, or I'm seeing that we're leaning towards the stopgap. I'm cool with it, but I definitely want to ride with our own, ride or die with what we got in the house.
Awesome, Coach. Any pushback on my comments?
Yeah, I think that one thing that scares me a little bit with Sorsby is something similar that I've seen in Beck sometimes this year, where I think that has this amazing ability in their wide receiver core to stretch the field, right? I think they have, I think CJ Daniels is extremely underrated. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver. I really do. I've seen him in certain aspects that I'm very, very impressed with him. Jojo Trader, I think he still has the potential to really come along. You have Malachi Tony. In general, this ability to stretch the field. I've seen too many times this year, either interceptions or plays that could have gone for longer than they did because of underthrown deep balls, but too much air on the deep ball. And I feel like Sorsby does the same thing. I feel like he's very accurate on those 5 and 6 routes and across the middle, but him and Beck, they put so much air in the deep ball that you never want a Malachi Tony to slow down, right? Like when you're behind the safety, you never want those guys to have to slow down and wait on a deep pass. You know, I think that with coaching, anything's possible. But when you have a special core of receivers, I think that you have to find the person that can really highlight their potential and highlight their gifts, the positivity in that. And I think that the ability to stretch the field and use that speed is something that we need to utilize, more further in the playoffs and especially next year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100% about it. The one thing, though, I will say, I think Zorsby does protect the ball a little bit better. He only had 5 picks this year and with 27 touchdown passes. So I do think that he's a little bit more careful with the football than Beck was. I think Beck took a little bit too many chances and underthrew some of those balls, especially against Louisville. These SMU game, the JoJo Trader bop up into the air. That was kind of his fault, and I know it goes on Beck's record. And then, of course, you had JoJo Trader also getting tackled in the end zone. So, but Beck did force that ball to Malachi Tony as well. So we'll see what happens. All right, so I want to honor Juan's request. Okay, I know, Coach, you're a little more nuanced when it comes to Miami, and so on. But Justin, I know you're a diehard Kane fan. You just got your doctorate from the U, right? You just got a doctorate from the U. What was your reaction when you found out the Canes were in the playoffs?
Well, I knew they were going to be in the playoffs. When I started thinking about it from the aspect of that the college football committee was producing a show, I started realizing and putting it together that they said all along that Miami Hurricanes were going to be in that position to have a head-to-head comparison with Notre Dame. They said it from the very first episode. And when I watched Notre Dame and Alabama flip, when Alabama had zero reason to flip with Notre Dame besides setting up the show, I was like, oh, the Canes are going to be in. If they handle business against Pittsburgh, the very next show, they're going to be in front of them, regardless of what happens. If BYU loses, it's going to happen. So I wasn't really surprised. I thought about it from a production standpoint, and they did exactly what they set out to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was extremely happy. I didn't see it live when it happened, but I was ecstatic when I found out. I was extremely happy that it happened. I was a little upset that Alabama didn't get a punishment for having a lackluster performance against Auburn and getting shellacked by Georgia. I thought that we should have been playing Oklahoma, not the other way around for Alabama. So I was a little disappointed in that, but I'm glad we're in. And I do say that if Miami's able to survive this gauntlet, it was one of the greatest accomplishments in the history of this program as far as football goes, because they are in the roughest bracket on paper for this season as well. Dros, I'm saying your handle right, Droski. We talked about Coach Elko a little bit at the beginning of the game. I have a lot of respect for Coach Elko. I don't think he'll scheme like Louisville, only because Braum is more of an offensive-minded coach and Elko's a defensive-minded coach, and that's not his MO. His MO is to try to beat you straight up, and he'll scheme against you, but nothing like really too crazy, unless he tells his OC just throw the kitchen sink at Miami. But I don't see that happening like it did with Louisville, where Braum, it's kind of like a mad scientist at times, especially when he plays Miami. Seems to elevate his game a little bit. So I just don't see that happening. I think it'll be straight up, but we will have our wrinkles. I do see Malachi Tony throwing a couple passes in the game because that's been implemented into the offense as part of the play package. Justin, you want to answer this question as well, and also Coach? Justin.
I think Braum is a mad scientist. I think Coach Elko is a great coach, but Braum, just what he can do and how creative he is, I think that's just one for one. And I also want to go back and just jump into my playoff conspiracy about, yes, we're in the hardest bracket, but if you see how the bracket's set up,
yeah,
it is one last show that the CFP wanted to set up. And I don't care what everybody else says. Yes, if everything happens how the CFP may want it to happen, this is exactly how it's lined up for Miami versus Texas A&M. If Miami handles business versus Texas A&M, that puts to bed all the Notre Dame talk. That's going to be the big talk in the game. These are common opponents that faced Notre Dame, that kept Notre Dame out of it. Miami handles business, goes on to play Ohio State. You have the 2002 rematch. That's going to be all the buzz. That's going to be the huge narrative. Meanwhile, Georgia is going to handle business in their bracket, and Miami will go on to play Georgia. That will be Beck versus his former team. You can't get any bigger than that. That's going to be all the crazy buzz. That's going to be all the crazy hype. And then moving on from that game, if everything continues to work out the way that the CFP set it up for, not to say that this is a guarantee, but this is the way the CFP set it up for. If Oregon in their easy bracket continues to handle business, their toughest game is going to be Indiana. You would be setting up a championship game for Miami versus Oregon. Now, I can tell you that this is a lot of things that have moving parts, but you can't overlook what the CFP did to Notre Dame and how they set up the whole selection committee show and how this bracket is set up. If this goes like that, they will have all the narratives they want and need.
Coach, I want you to answer the question about Coach Elko, and then I want you to speak about the Classey conspiracy if Miami's able to get through the bracket.
Well, I mean, Elko, I'll be brief. You know, he's a phenomenal coach. He's gonna come prepared, just like Oregon. You know, I think Bama. We're gonna see a different Bama. I hate to say it, but I think Bama beats Oklahoma. You know, even with the 3 losses, good coaches find ways to produce come postseason. As far as the conspiracy, I don't know. There's so many different ways you can go with the conspiracy, though, because there's so much intertwined, right? Mario was at Oregon at one point, right? Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman winner, is from Miami, and the championship games in Miami. So there's like so many different venues you can take that can still kind of check off one of the boxes. I just think a couple things really need to be looked at. Going back quick to the whole Notre Dame thing, you have to look at head to head. However, I think that both Notre Dame and UM should be in the playoff. The whole we're gonna watch Oregon beat, who do they have? JMU, or do they have Tulane? Who does Oregon have?
I don't remember.
Whoever.
Exactly.
We're gonna watch them beat them by we're gonna watch them play a running clock JV game like they used to do back in the day. It's unfortunately that those last 2 spots, it should have been between Texas, Notre Dame, and Vandy in some kind of CFP committee decision. They have to find a way to revamp it and make the best 12 teams in. It's bad for the sport to start playoffs with 2 terrible games. Hey, if I'm wrong and something crazy happens, then remind me of this. I'm wrong, but it's not going to. And for these playoffs, they pushed for these playoffs for so long. They finally expanded them. You have to put the best 12 teams in, man. You have to do it. I'm excited for this weekend. I'm excited to see how everything plays out. I do think, UM definitely has one of the toughest legs to get to where they got to go. But I think I think when UM plays at their best, they're the best team in the country. I kind of said that early on. There's a few teams that I feel like when they're on, they're just on. Obviously Ohio State. I don't think they had their best showing against Indiana. They have a ton of weapons. They're able to do a lot on both sides of the ball. UM, I think, just looks phenomenal when they're playing at their best. I hate to, I know they have 3 losses, but when the first time Bama played Georgia, they looked really good. There's times where they look great, and there's times that they look, not, I don't want to say mediocre, but good at best. Georgia, when they're on, they look phenomenal when that defense is playing Georgia defense. So I think it's going to be a real fun playoff season.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I'm looking forward to Saturday, high noon. Okay. Over there at College Station. So I'm extremely excited. Mr. Classey, all right, let the audience know where they can find you.
You can find me on social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, here on YouTube at Dr. Classey Kane. That's Classy with an E. It is not an adjective. It is a noun. I am 100% petty. I do not bring classiness. I talk a lot of shit, so don't think that you're getting some classy person. No, that's just a name. So if you come on the page and you see this guy talking stuff and you're like, well, be classy like your name. No, understand that there's an E in there, and the E is for everyone. Everyone could get the smoke. But I love my team. I love the Canes. I'm going to bring the entertainment, going to bring the fun, going to bring the information, and we're just going to have a good time. That's just where you can find me on my platforms, and that's just what I bring and do.
Right. Coach, I always like when I ask you the same question, and you always have the same response.
You can find me every once in a while on 305 Sports Now. Outside of that, I'm pretty simple man. Not much else going on.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please do not forget to subscribe to Classey Kane. Again, great content, very short, straight to the point, very entertaining as well. He's going to teach me how to do his little skits. I told him, like, hey, you teach me to do that. It's pretty cool. But like I said, guys, enjoy the game. I do have an announcement. I did make an announcement on my show, but I do have an announcement. I'm going to have a surprise for the listeners. This is a coming weekend. I'm doing something a little different. I'm gonna let you guys know what it is on Friday. All right, but gentlemen, before we after we sign off, I'd like to tell you guys. So if you can stay on for a couple of minutes, I'd like to share that with you. You guys cool with that?
Definitely.
For sure.
All right, awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, especially if you like what you heard. And don't forget to add the new wrinkle, which is to hype this video as well. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the game. Stay safe. God bless. See you soon. Go Canes, guys. Bye, everybody.